Díomh agus fáilte chuna satá sibh sé ar fad is mise John Prendergast agus tá an so I géirí in éireann agus tá anna hásta head kaintliv in Jove lug anam níocht. So hello to all of you in the Irish Fest in Milwaukee. It's great to be here. My name is John Prendergast and I am here in County Kerry in Ireland, Southwest Ireland, and I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about Irish place names. I am absolutely over the moon to be asked by Dan agus Pobal na Gaeltachta Howl in Milwaukee to give a little bit of a chat about something very interesting, and I hope it'll be relevant and relative to you guys. Just a little kind of 20-minute, 15-minute overview of Irish language place names, why they're cool, why they're historic, and maybe their social significance as well as historical significance in the way they're named. I hope all of you are keeping well over, and I'm sick and not to be at the festival myself this year, but hopefully another year it'll all happen for us. So with this little chat, I'll hope to talk a little bit maybe about some of the more popular Irish language place names here in Ireland. I will go through maybe some of the counties and what they actually mean, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the more common themes in place names in Ireland. For example, some words that come up quite often, some adjectives that you'll see quite a lot, so like colour or like physical descriptions of things, and maybe some nice quirky things as well about place names. So like, for example, places called like bum or, elbow or shoulder, basically, when translated back. It's a massive field, onomastics and place names. So we'll just do a little bit, but hopefully it'll give you a bit of an appreciation, or maybe feed into something you already know or you'd like to know about place names. So if anyone has any questions or would like to talk to me further about this, I'd be delighted to talk to people about this. So my name is John Prendergast, and you can just find me on Twitter or catch my email off Dan or any of that kind of thing. But I'm sure I'll know some of you guys hopefully watching in anyway to this. It's been 2 years now since I've been to the Irish Fest in Milwaukee, and I miss it a lot. So I hope you're all keeping well. Okay, so I suppose I'll be able to share this screen now, and we will start a little bit about some of the cooler parts of place names in Ireland. So just generally, let's see if I can move this guy up a bit. So as you can see in the general Irish, we'll say roadmap, you have your Irish language part of the place name and then the English down below it. And I would contend this is a severely important thing for both Irish and non-Irish people who come to drive around the roads in Ireland, because it's nearly some of the only bit of exposure that people would get to the Irish language on a daily basis. Maybe the only bit of tag of all or contact a lot of people would have the Irish language every day. But there's so much more to a place name than just a simple name on a map. It'll tell us a lot about, for example, the physical or historical characteristics of that place name. Like, for example, if I'm talking to someone in, for example, Athay in South, in kind of North Kerry and West Limerick, I'll say, an Tlay. Okay. An Tlay, is there a mountain there? And they'll say, yes, how did you know that? And I'll say, well, it might only be a 5-letter place name in English, A-T-H-E-A, but the way that the Irish place name would go, an Tlay, lets me know that there's a ford there, like an Clia down here. And, the second part of it then, that there's a mountain there. So you can come across as very intelligent when you're talking about place names in Ireland. So even here, actually, on this map itself, Johnstown, Ballyhon, I just picked that randomly, but I mean, that's obviously my own name. Kilkenny, Kilkenny, Achaoor, Freshford, Cork, Kirkig, agus Dublin, Achlia. You'll see a lot of these words over and over. For example, Bala, Baile. Bala means town, relatively. It also means home. So it's kind of, you'll see it in a lot of different place names, like Ballan Airterig, where I'm living, the town of the ferreters. Ballan Vononig, Ballybunion, a non-Kerry example for you. Bala Dahab, Ballydahab. So that's the Bally in Irish place names, which is really, really common. I think it's nearly like 6,000 places would have Bally in their place name. Kill in Kilkenny, Cill, meaning small, a church of, or even a little graveyard as well. So Kilkennig would be the Church of Canis. Kilkennig, and Canis is the patron saint of Kilkenny. So we're getting a lot of information about what these places actually, what they're like, what their historical significances are. So that's some examples. I'll give you some further ones and we'll just talk a little bit about them maybe. Dún, D-U-N, Dún, meaning fort. Here in Kerry, in West Kerry, we have Dún Chine. Although that was supposed to be a different Dún. That was, I think, a pagan god Dún. Dún Chine. Dún Nanaul, for anyone who's been to Donegal, in one of the most northerly counties in Ireland, Dún Nanaul, the fort of the foreigners. So the Dún is something that was probably built quite often on a cliff, like a premonitory fort. You'll see it in Dún Aingasa in Connemara as well, or in the islands, the Aran Islands. So Dún, usually like a protective area, a promontory or a fort like that. Cathair, 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 is an interesting one. I was told recently, Cathair actually has stuff above the ground. So it's in general parlance in modern Irish now, you'd say like a city. So Cathair Vala Clia, the city of the town of Dublin. Cathair Kirky, the city of Cork. Cathair. But I was told actually that Cathair itself means that there's stuff above the ground. There's like a collection of places. So Cathair Vrian, it's the town of Brian. Cathair Scullabeen here, the town of Scullabeen. But there's actually, it was the way the houses were built, so there might have only been 3, but there's also stuff below the ground as well. Which is also true of the Liss, Lios, Liss, a type of kind of fairy fort, and you'll see that a lot in places as well. So Liss Thuhel, Liss Fucha, Liss, Lios, meaning kind of a fort, but there's also a part under the ground. So there's just some general useful ones there you'll see. As a lot of places in Ireland. So, for example, we'll have a lot of these signs, but it's nearly anywhere in the county, really. So, if you think of any place in Ireland, every single, pretty much with the exception of certain areas, nearly every place is just an anglicised version of the place name. So, if we look at a few counties, maybe, for example, Cork. C-O-R-K comes from Kirkig. Kirkig actually comes from Pertig, which is an old genitive of Pertach, which means bog. So if anyone has come to you and said to you, "Oh, you're an old bogger, you're nothing but a bogger," what they would probably mean is you're from Cork, because that's literally what Cork means, the word Kirkig. It's all boggy land, marshy land. So if anyone here is from Cork or has any friends, from Cork or family from Cork, I'm sorry, but they're boggers. Just the way it is. Schligach up in Sligo. It's kind of like a shelly place. Bala Áthaclia or Áthaclia. Bala meaning town again, and Áthaclia meaning a town of the hurdles, of the fords, of the fords. So there's like the idea in Dublin that there's water kind of fjords connecting the city, or kind of separating the city out, and then they put hurdles over it. But the reason why it's called Dublin is another name for it was Dubh Linn, meaning Blackpool, which I think had some sort of Viking element to that. So there's some kind of a snapshot of some of the counties in Ireland. Kerry, people of Keir. And someone said to me recently, I'm not so sure how true this is, I haven't looked into it, but Ree in Kerry, Ree would mean in modern Irish king. And people think, Kerry is the kingdom, and I'm not going to argue with that because, it's the best. But the idea was that maybe, Ree maybe comes from, it lends itself to that idea that maybe the kingdom of Kerry was because that the people were so noble or something like that. I'm not too sure about that one myself. I haven't looked into that, unfortunately. Let me think. Any other ones now? Some of them are quite obvious, like Tyrone, Tir Owen, the county of Owen, who would have been a chieftain back in the day. Tir Owen, on Doon. Just County Down would be the fort. So there's plenty of kind of historical evidence there regarding the counties of Ireland. I suppose generally when you're thinking of how counties and places are named, even just small places, a lot of them are just like, look at this mountain, I would say, God, what's this? This is a big green mountain, for example. So even in Camp now, just the way down to An-Chaum, on the way to Dingle from Tralee, you have on Knoch Glasmore, they call it. So it's on Knoch Glasmore. You have the big green hill. Knoch could be a very common name, Knoch. That's the kind of thing that you get. So you'll see in a lot of different cases, they'll just be describing physically the place. What's the Tom Fuchel Imachtum, but what's the height of the place? What's it look like physically? For example, Tralee, the bank of the beach of the River Lee. The River Lee cuts right through the town of Tralee and it goes underwater, so that's where they get that name. It lends itself to a lot of reason, but there's millions of advantages to knowing and I suppose appreciating the place name of the area, because it does give you that little bit of finesse, or that kind of small bit of subtle understanding as to what actually the place is about. An interesting part as well of maybe naming places, for example, at the Cork-Kerry border, there are some mountains and they resemble physically parts of the body. So for example, you'll see a lot of places that derive their names from a physical attribute or part of a body, what it might look like. So the two Paps, they're called in English, are two mountains just on the Kerry-Cork border. Two Paps. So an gá chiach, the two breasts or the two nipples are called in Irish. And you see that a lot in kind of, I suppose, mountains as well. Mountains kind of generally get the brunt of funny place names like that. So you'll have a lot of fodder there for that kind of thing. There's plenty of online resources. So I'm just going to show you a small few now, stuff that you can kind of look at yourself, such as loganum.ie, to kind of give yourselves a flavour of what the loganum is. There's also some fun things done, like all of the states and maybe the bigger cities in America in the States have been translated into Irish. Some of them are quite funny. I'll show them to you now. And there's some good YouTube videos as well. Kieran A has done a nice what the fuckle Shrafishon Air Loganum Yacht. So there's plenty to get really on this topic. So I'm just going to show you a small few of these guys. So this is the map I was referring to, the map of Gaeilge Loganum Nacha Gaeilge Vericha. So here in Milwaukee, it's called Mullin an Vachig. The Mullin is, I suppose, all of these names are just because they kind of sound like, well, I think here actually it's sort of a mix between pure satire, pure fun, and there might be an ounce of historical truth or maybe physical truth in some of the naming of it, but I think that most of it just sounds like it or it's funny. So for here in Milwaukee, we have Mullin an Vachig, which is the mill of the lame person or the beggar. Mullin an Vachig. Chicago, sometimes spelled without the O in the middle. Where else we have? We have Wisconsin. That's just a funny one. Schleite, Montana. I don't know how I feel about that one, having lived there myself. Schleite, just mountains. It's pretty funny though, because I suppose it just comes. Montana is just the Spanish word for mountains, so it makes sense. Vala and Glantachan, Washington. There's plenty there. They're very funny. That's available on nos.ie, N-O-S. August Murach Moore a year Owen Pio Murachu to this put this together. So Balo Yerth Owen Gurmahagot. And obviously there's plenty there that are kind of funny. Like I know there's a few people here from maybe watching it from New Jersey. Gansey New, that's an old one. We've all heard that one. New Gansey, New Jersey. New Aurich is a classic one. Yeah, and that's one we would actually call it. The only place outside of Ireland with its own distinct Irish name is a province in Newfoundland in Canada, a recent province you could say, Newfoundland. I've just given it away there, and it's called Tallaght an Éisc, or the town or the land of the fish. So that's a historic reason. A lot of people went from Ireland to Newfoundland to fish, particularly in the 1800s, I believe. So it was like, where are you going? Tommy Dulbit, Tallaght an Éisc. So that's another little bit of a tidbit for you. The only place outside of Ireland to be given its own distinct Irish name, different to maybe what it just sounds like or a translation for it. Loganam Punkai, run by Fionter. The same crowd who do like Anam Punkai and Terma and Guish and Stuchas. They have this wonderful website which you can look at in Gaeilge or in English, and it'll tell us just the correct place name for any place name in Ireland. It's not a website I've spent a whole pile of time on, but they will correct you sometimes if you want to get the correct place name. If there is something that does interest you, there is a list of glossary of words commonly found and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great place to get some proper information. And you can hear things as well. I'm pretty sure you can hear the correct sound of the place name. So that's an exciting thing for people who are very into Loganam Níocht. I'm just going to finish off, Bairbre, just talking about some of the more important parts about Loganam Níocht. So, like I said earlier, it's maybe one of the only parts of exposure you can have to Irish language if you're not accustomed to speaking it or hearing it every day. And I think even when I'm abroad and I'm meeting people and they'll say, oh, they knew there was a language in Ireland because when they came to Ireland they would see it, and people would say, wow, it's a big thing that's very interesting to them and pull them into the world of Irish. So that is really cool. It doesn't come without, unfortunately, a little bit of controversy. For example, in the 6 counties in Northern Ireland, you'll see often like people will get angry about the Irish being on some of the signs, and it'll get defaced and that kind of thing. So that'll often cause a little bit of panic, and also in Gaeltacht areas, more often than not, the Irish will be the only actual version of the sign, which kind of makes sense because even you don't want to be like the place I'm living in now is on Bala Uachtarach here, so the western upper part of the Bala, the town. But the English of it is just Bala Uachtarach. It doesn't, like, even when I see it written down, it kind of confuses me. It doesn't make much sense, in my view, anyway. but it's important to kind of protect the place names because, like I say, they give us so much. There's so much wealth of history, knowledge, and just general coolness behind them that I think you'll all agree that they're very, very important to preserve. I'll finish on a final note, just about, for example, the story of Diarmuid and Gráinne, who fell in love and were chased all around Ireland, and they couldn't lay their heads in the same patch of land or same bed twice, or they would be caught and killed. Long story short, very, very long story short for you there. But for that reason, there's a lot of places in Ireland called Labba Diarmuide, Diarmuid's bed, and they'd be called after Diarmuid or Gráinne because it was said that they travelled all around Ireland, trying to evade their captors. So it's kind of like small little tidbits like that that make you think, it's a very cool thing for people to get interested in the Irish language and to show just how powerful, I suppose, it is to have our own tongue in the islands. So, Sin a bhfuil uaimse, that's from me. That's John Prendergast talking to you there for the last 20 minutes about place names. I hope you have a wonderful Irish Fest, and I hope it's as fun as can be under the given circumstances. Agus gur míle maith agat. Thank you very much for tuning in. Agus be really kind when we're talking.
Zurich, Misha Bairbre. My name is Bairbre. As Connemara, I'm from Connemara. Tameg over UWM. I work at UWM. Tanyin Milwaukee Irish Fest Gmorlam. I really like Milwaukee Irish Fest. The purpose of this short video is to give you the impression that you're visiting the students from the Celtic Studies program at UWM, that you're visiting them at Milwaukee Irish Fest in the cultural village area, but particularly in the Conradh na Gaeilge tent. The students are there for the purpose of promoting our program and promoting mostly the Irish language. I've been very fortunate in my years here to meet the founding members of the Conradh na Gaeilge, the Gaelic League, John Gleeson and friends, and over the years Milwaukee Irish Fest has helped the Conradh na Gaeilge, the Gaelic League branch, Jeremiah Curtin Gaelic League branch here in Milwaukee, promote the Irish language at the festival every August. The students love to volunteer for. I have never had any problem asking them to come down and promote the Irish language. When people come to visit the tent, they particularly asking about the books that are for sale there, or maybe asking questions about the Irish language. Don't be fooled. People will tell you that it's a difficult language, but believe me, English is a lot more difficult to learn than Irish. In this short video, I'm going to give you a little overview of people's names, convince you that you've used these before, you've used a lot of Irish, give you the fun we've had over the years of translating some of the Milwaukee terms into Irish, and go through some of the food unique to Milwaukee that you might find here at the festival, but use the Irish language, and some bands' name. So typically when people come into the tent, they are amused to see so many Irish language books, and they will tell you stories about how they know their friend Siobhan told them this, or Sean said that, or Seamus said this. And when I ask, do you have Irish? They say, oh gosh, no, I never use Irish, I would never be able to use that. And yet they talk about their friend Colleen or their friend Kathleen, and I've tried to convince them, yes, you've used Irish, you have some loan words like slogan, like galore, you've used Irish. And they say, but I can't read that. So I said, don't worry about reading it. You can see that it's different. We're using the same letters as the Roman letters, but it's a different format and a different way of expression and a different spelling structure. So reading it and speaking it are very different, as it is in any language. When I came here first, learning to say words like Pewaukee, or looking at the word Oconomowoc and trying to work out where exactly am I going to begin and end on the stressing the word, the vowels in this, or the syllables in this, I should say. So over recent times, there are more and more Irish names in the public eye, like the Porrick Harrington, like Saoirse Ronan, and names like Niamh or Aoife or Oisín that people used to find more difficult now become common to their ear. And how they spell their name is very unique. I've met many Ciaras, which is my last name, Ni Chiardha. I've met many Ciaras, and some use C, some use K. It really doesn't matter which you use. How you say it and how you want it to be said is what's unique to Milwaukee. Unique to the language. At the festival and in homes in Milwaukee, I've been amazed to see the Céad Míle Fáilte, the 100,000 welcomes, written on many slogans, on cars, on t-shirts, and it highlights how the visual shows you that there is an accent on some of our consonants. But the Céad Míle Fáilte is always at the tent for you. The Céad Míle Fáilte, the 100,000 welcomes, is at the festival. And you will find names like my own, Bairbre, looks odd, sounds odd, but you'll find many common Ciaras, and you'll find Paddy and Molly McFest as well. And Paddy and Molly can write their names in English, or they can write their names using the Irish language structure, but they're still going to be Paddy and Molly McFest. People step into the tent and start asking about band names, and we've been very fortunate to work with local groups like Áthas, like Ceol Cordia, and Chicago-based Gaelic Storm. These names 25 years ago might have been unusual, but they're much more common to see them here now. And the Conradh na Gaeilge tent has helped people be more comfortable with pronouncing what they see written, but mostly the help from each band, from each person to introduce themselves, and for you to ask several times, how do you say that again? How do you say that again? Is what will encourage you to keep going and to keep delving deeper and deeper into this wonderfully old language.